God bless you guys. My name is Beverly. Today is February 1st. Well, actually, now it's February the 2nd, 2017. I just ask the Lord to come in and help me to do what I'm trying to do, because I cannot do anything without Him. I'm woefully inadequate and an utter failure without Him. So I just ask Him to help me gather my thoughts and speak to His people and convey to Him what it is that is in His heart and in His spirit that He wants you to know. So I want to share 3 dreams with you. The first dream was from January 30th, 2017. And in this dream, I saw America walking around like they were walking a dog. They were convinced that they were seeing things right, but they only had one eye when they were supposed to have 2 eyes. I watched them from a distance, and they were wandering back and forth with a pet designer dog, vainly, uselessly sniffing the ground. Clueless, but they thought they knew. Then I wrote, if they had known really what was going on, they would have quit their jobs and bought land. Okay, things I want to point out about that dream. The dream is about America, the vanity of Americans, how all of our endeavors involve uselessness and vanity. How we follow fashion, how we're concerned with how things look, how every September or August we get this whole back to school fashion thing, because no one wants to send their kids to school, and they're that one kid that's not stylish. Why are we so concerned with these things instead of being grateful that we have clothing and that it's not tattered and that it is adequate to keep us warm? But no, it has to be of the right fashion, the right colors. It has to be made by the correct name. It has to have the right name on it. We have to have bought it at the right place. So, it's great that you're wearing polo, but you got your polo at TJ Maxx instead of at Nordstrom. So it's just all about the pedigree. That's why they had this designer dog and they were following it. Because the American way of life is so vain, and it does not pertain to the true issues of life. I want to read Ecclesiastes to you. This is what, the man who was the wisest man ever. This is what he said. Now, of course, that excludes Jesus Christ, who was God. So let's look at Ecclesiastes, chapter 12. He said, verse 13, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, For this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. The duty of man is not to be fashionable or cute. Because remember, they were in the garden naked, and God said it was good. Not that we're to be naked, but that's to show you how much life has nothing to do with what you have on. Nothing to do with what you have on. But that's all we as Americans are concerned about, is that we're wearing the right thing in the right place in front of the right people. That we have the right phone. No self-respecting teenager these days wants to be seen with an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 5 or an iPhone 6. You got to have just the right cover on it. These things are not cheap. They don't want a pair of UGG type boots. They want a pair of UGG boots. The other ones could be warmer than the UGG boots, more comfortable than the UGG boots. But no, we need to pay $230 for these boots because they say UGG on them. No, we don't want to buy them in TJ Maxx. We need to buy them at Nordstrom. We need to pay a lot of money on it. And we need people to see us there buying it. We need to live on this street, not that street. How about you live in a house you can afford? How about you live in a house your husband can pay for by himself? And just keep it nice. Just keep it neat. Just keep it clean. Just put your love in it. And be home when your kids come home. Better yet, keep your kids at home. You going to college? Learn how to teach your children. Anyway, I'm not going there right now. So, the comparison is this little dog to the American way of life. This dog was still sniffing the ground, but with no purpose, aimlessly. He wasn't on the trail of anything. It was just an instinct that he still had in him, just to sniff the ground. We educate a bunch of children in skills they'll never use and don't teach them skills they really need. You want to teach them a whole bunch of worthless word problems and new math and trigonometry and all kind of foolishness, which they don't get anyway because you don't teach them arithmetic. So it's just designed to make people hate math. Have a bunch of people say, "Oh, I can't do math. I hate math. I'm not a math person. I must be right-brained or left-brained." And then you miss the fact totally that they're not trying to teach you anything. But they teach you all that stuff, but they won't teach you the way the banks calculate interest. They won't teach you how these finance companies are going to rip you off with, what's the difference between financing a car at 0%, 2%, 3%, 5%. I've seen people buy a car and have 20% interest and more. They don't understand what it means that for interest to compound daily. But you want to spend $18,000, $19,000 a year so-called educating each and every child. Multiply that by all the children that they load up on buses every day and then warehouse them in a school and waste their time and waste their day and waste your money in the form of your labor. And they come out and they don't know how to be savvy consumers. They don't understand the way the government works. They're being taught what to think. They're being brainwashed into social agendas. Different video. Let me focus. So you get the point about the little pet, and you can take that off into as many directions as you want to. People don't have any useful skills in terms of what it would take to survive as a human being. All you can do is find your little place in this economy, if you can, after spending $180,000 on your education, and people are taking their college degrees and burning them because they can't find a job. And it was useless, because if they can't find work in that so-called profession, they weren't taught anything else. Their skills are narrow. They don't know how to put a fish on a hook. You're like a dog. Like, can you imagine trying to take a Chihuahua hunting? All they do is shake. Bad breeding. They were bred to be small. And that's it. They were bred to be small, and that's all. We're vain people. When I say vain, I don't just mean vain in terms of beauty and all that stuff. I mean vain in terms of worthless. They're worthless in terms of their value system. Because anything that's not built on the Word of God is worthless. They're teaching them not to see gender, teaching them confusion, sexual perversion. There's no reason at all you need to introduce any sexual concept whatsoever to a preschooler. But that is in our curriculums of today. All they need to know is boy, girl. And they should be able to tell it at a glance. Because there should be a difference between the way a boy dresses and the way a girl dresses. And keep moving. And also, the Americans, they only had one eye when they should have had two. So, which means they were blind. They couldn't see anything. They thought they were seeing right, but they can't see. America, they think they got it all under control. I'm talking about the American people. They think they know what's going on. They think they have a plan for the future, but you don't know that you're like a vain, useless little dog that's not good for anything except for sitting on someone's lap on a couch. And you don't know how to do anything else, and you're bred this way. You have no survival skills. You're trapped in cities. You paid $800,000 for a condo that is 3 floors up, and it has a basement So you have your 4,200 square foot condo, and it's built on 8,000 square feet of land. You don't even have room to plant a geranium, let alone food that you could eat if the trucks stop rolling. Now, how smart was that? And then you and your wife have to go and work all day to pay for that. And you turn your kids over to the state to be miseducated and drawn away from you, and to mold them into useless little creatures as well. Useless to themselves. Hopelessly dependent on a system, on an economy, on a way of life that is unsustainable unless you remain within the system. Oh. It's a clueless America. They're clueless. And they're going to march in the streets and defend this way of life that cannot continue. This can't continue. I wrote also, if they knew what was going on, they would quit their jobs and buy land. Like I said, you got that condo, and it's built straight up. You paid a lot of money for it, a lot of money. And you don't have room to plant anything. And if you tried to plant anything, your homeowners association would sue you, because they won't even let you put a different lantern on the side of your garage, let alone plant some corn, if you had room, which you don't. Never occurred to you somebody doesn't want you to be able to take care of yourself? Someone wants to be able to control you with the fact that you're going to be hungry, that you cannot buy or sell? Because if you just lived on a piece of land somewhere and they won't sell you anything, you already have the issues of life. You have land that yields her strength, and you have fruit that has a seed within itself. And whenever you grow this fruit, it gives you the seed right back. And one seed can produce 30, 60, and 100-fold. And that way you'd never be without. The rain that comes down from the sky and gathers up into streams and rivers and lakes and feeds you and the earth. You have your wife, who you have the freedom to choose, and you choose her based on her character. Another little thing about the designer dog is that they're bred, like I said, to be small. They're bred for the way they look. They're bred to bring out a certain color in their coat or a certain prance that they have. Something vain and useless like that. They're not bred for, some of them had a instinct to herd animals. Some of them had a hunting instinct. You take a bloodhound, they say the nose of a bloodhound. Like you could put it on the trail of some animal and you could hunt that animal down, and dinner. All kinds of guard dogs. A dog that could pull a cart. A dog that could pull a sleigh. And they had that drive to run and pull a sleigh. Useful dogs. That's why dogs were domesticated. Not to sit on your lap and get stuffed in a bag and be able to be in fancy restaurants because he goes to the groomer twice a week and smells like coconuts and gets his toes polished and a bow on his head. That is a vain and useless thing, and that's the life that we live as Americans. So a man should want a piece of land, some animals that have a profit, and everything in his life that serves a purpose. The purpose of Ecclesiastes. You should have the freedom to choose a wife based on her character, based on certain characteristics that are desirable to reproduce. Because if you marry a loud, vain, boisterous woman, that's what you're going to have to deal with. And your daughters are going to be vain and loud and boisterous. And you're going to want to go up on the roof and sit on the roof instead of coming in the house. But now they don't do it like that. They sit in the sports bar. They go out with the guys after work because they married a clamorous, loudmouth, boisterous, unsubmissive, uncooperative woman. And ladies, you were in such a hurry to get married. You also married something with the wrong characteristics. You wanted, first of all, he was just willing to get married. You wanted a wedding. You wanted the perfect dress on the perfect day, in the perfect church, with the perfect hairdo, the perfect honeymoon, to put it on your Facebook and get 800 likes. Because we concentrate on vanity. Okay, hopefully I made my point about that. But like I said, if you really knew what was going on, and if you really knew what was coming, you would labor. Like Jesus said, why do you spend your money for that which is not bread? This doesn't pertain to the issues of life. This is useless. Why would anybody pay $1,700 for a pair of shoes? I saw a preacher's wife sitting in a pulpit with a pair of red-bottomed shoes. Those people ought to go into a revolt. I wouldn't give a dime. Okay. The next dream. Okay. The next dream I want to share was on February the 1st. And remember, the last one was about these blind people. One-eyed people. Couldn't see right. Something about how people think Trump is something when they watch the trail lead to Obama. 444 is the number of this. That led people into the deception. So I had a lot of people, and even I used to see 444 all the time, and it used to always catch my eye, and I would see it and see it and see it and see it and see it. So I can't say I really ever asked the Lord, what does it mean? But anyway, so 444 That's the number of what Trump is doing. Like if you could put it like, oh, this code word 444. You could say something like that. Everybody saw Obama identified by the Lord God as the Antichrist. You saw thousands upon thousands upon thousands and probably more people given dreams, visions, audible words about Obama and who he was. And everybody knew something was not right. And it had everybody watching. Everybody was aware. Even all the people now who don't believe and who are scoffing, they decided after, some of them dropped off after Trump was elected. The rest of them dropped off after the 20th of January. So they're like, oh, well, I guess it was nothing. Even though you watched this lightning rod on Barack Obama. You watched this whole trail lead right to him, to where everybody was looking at him. He even had to acknowledge it himself. When he says, Michelle Bachmann says that I'm going to bring about the biblical end of days. He even addressed it himself. He's the Antichrist. And God showed us that by a cloud of witnesses and people. Because I know I had dreams. And then I click on some video, some person I'd never seen before, and they had the exact same dream about many things. And you can go tell somebody else it's not God, but you're not going to tell it to me. You better go find somebody who doesn't know. So the people watched this whole trail build up to Barack Obama. This is what my dream was. And then when code word 444 popped up, everybody's immediately, their attention is diverted off of diverted off of Barack Obama and onto Trump. And I believe that they did this on purpose because, I had a dream where there were so many people that were having all these dreams and visions about Barack Obama, and it was causing so much trouble that they had to address it. They're calling people delusional, and it was so unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Out of all the people that have ever been accused of being the Antichrist, it was never witnessed by so many people saying that God showed them that he was the Antichrist. And God said he's not going to do anything except to reveal it to his servants, the prophets. So what do? Enter Operation 444, which was Trump. So even though people saw this whole thing happen, it's kind of like when you have a 2-year-old that has your phone and you want your phone back. So what you do is you hand them something else that they're more interested in. I don't know, your car keys, something. You want to get one thing out of their hand, you hand them something else. Ooh. And the American public had the attention span of a 2-year-old because they're vain. They're like little designer dogs, and all they care about is how a thing looks and not whether it functions or if it's useful. They don't care. That doesn't enter into the picture. They'll pay $500,000 for a house that was built in a month with staples instead of nails, and floor joists that are so thin and flimsy that they'll be The floors will be sagging in 15 years, if that. And then you could take an Amish boy who desires a wife and put him in the forest, and he'll build you a house that'll survive a tornado. So, next dream. Okay, this dream was about Trump. Now, one thing I want to say about this dream is it was related to the dream above, even though I woke all the way up and wrote that thing down and fell back asleep. So, and then I gotta say about this dream is also about the nature of Trump's function. Operation 444, to lead people into the deception. And this second dream goes into the details of how it's done. So, first the dream started out with this family, and I was in their house and I looked out the window, and all of a sudden the matriarch of the family, which is interesting because God created a patriarchal society where the father and the man was the head, and everything was based upon the man and his headship. And the Antichrist system has turned that upside down and put the women on top. So many women as head of household. So that's the way this place was. There was a matriarch of that family. And I looked out the window, and this woman had just gotten a Bentley, a black Bentley, a shiny black Bentley, and it was parked out the window. And I'm like, this woman doesn't have money for this. Where did they get this? And I'm asking the other members of the family, and they didn't see anything strange about it. They thought it was great. They didn't care where this newfound prosperity, whether it was based on theft, I don't even know what. They didn't question anything. They're just like, hey, this is great. We in the money. So the Americans are being motivated by the same wicked things that got them into this mess in the first place, which is just a concern to be prosperous, and that's it. To be prosperous and to look prosperous. I'm going to keep moving. So then I was in a car, and I'm including myself in this because this dream was a warning to me. Because you can preach to others and be a castaway. None but the righteous shall see God. God is not a respecter of person. He doesn't care. If you sin and you're found wanting, you'll go to hell. It doesn't matter how much he used you. It doesn't matter how many visions, dreams, and long dissertation, audible words you've written down. Doesn't matter. If you don't live right, you'll go to hell. It doesn't even matter. God's going to use somebody. And that person is just as capable of messing up as anybody out here. So what we have to watch for in this time is flattery, being starstruck, and being charmed. Don't be charmed by Donald Trump. And when Barack Obama comes back on the scene, see, that's another part of the deception, that Barack's gone. And then focus on Donald Trump. Just focus on this deception. But that trail that led to Barack Obama is still there. He's still the one. Just like Oprah said, he's still the one. So I'm in a car with Donald Trump, and two other middle-aged ladies, but these ladies were Caucasian. I don't know what that had to do with anything. The two ladies were in the back of the car, which was like a limo with the top off. The reason of the top off is because Donald Trump was going amongst the people, trying to gain their confidence, but without sincerity. He was trying to appear very common and approachable, but still powerful and elite and capable of accomplishing the great things that he was saying he was going to do. And it was because if the people identified too much with him, he wanted to be common and approachable, but not too much. He still wanted to maintain that aloofness and elite air about him, because they still wanted him to maintain that aura that he was this powerful guy who is just now on the side of the common people and the American way, and we're going to get this thing done, and we're going to get America snatched back on track again, and build a wall or whatever. Somebody told me he's planning on building a wall. So these are the kind of great things that he wants you to believe, that he's bold and, ooh, I'm going to do it. Okay? Because he didn't want to seem, he wanted to be approachable, but he didn't want to seem just like a regular person. He wanted them to believe that we just have this elite person that's now on our side. Because we are made to feel powerless and at the mercy of this confusing and unseen force that runs the world. You know, we just know something's not right, but as long as we don't stop trying to get to the bottom of it, as long as we got this person that's going to work for us, we'll live with the system as long as it works for us, even though we know it's foul. So he needed to be elite and yet one on our side and willing for the sake of the American way to take back the country. So I became loosely engaged in a conversation with Trump. He named two things that I had been involved in as professions, and he had stickers of some kind about those professions on the inside door of his limo. As he was looking, and he was looking for, it was as if he were looking for people who had skill in those areas, or like he was just trying to like pump those professions up, like, oh, I think this is great and noble, and I'm looking for people who can work in these areas. But so I made it known to him, and this was in a prideful way that I did. I made it known to him that, in a prideful and starstruck way, that I had a certification and skill in those areas. So after that, I ended up in the car with him, and it was like, oh, you know, I felt important, and I felt like I was fooling myself into thinking that, oh, I mattered to this guy. Oh, well, come on board. You know, you're just what I'm looking for, and blah, blah, blah. So got in the car. We drove around for a while. But as I was riding in the car, I found myself trying to maintain his attention and trying to keep it going where he made me feel important. But it was increasingly clear that I didn't mean anything to him. He was insincere. This just was all for show. So, and the ladies that were in the back seat, they also had this silly grin on their face where they had let go of all scrutiny, any what do you call that? Where you critically analyze things. You know, all that stuff went out the window. It was just like, oh, where was Donald Trump? Oh my goodness. And it was like anything he said, they didn't even examine it at all. They just went with whatever. So they were just starstruck. They were just starstruck. So, like I said, I was aware that he wasn't interested, and somehow I got out of the car. I got separated from them. And you would have thought that he would have stopped and picked me back up or looked to see where I went, but no, he just kept right on going. So that's when it was like undeniable, you know, and this guy was not interested in me or any skill that I had. So that reminds me of how people are saying, somebody told me that he's like talking about reopening the steel mills and all those industries that have been killed off and bringing things back to America. He's not going to do any of that stuff. He's not interested in any of that stuff. He's just trying to pump you up, make you think he cares, make you think that you're some useful resource and you are America, and it's not going to happen. He is just something to keep you looking over here while they continue on with the plan they had from the beginning, which very well could have been for Barack Obama to just stay in office. But they couldn't get away with that because of all the attention that God drew to what they were doing and who he was. So I ended up at a school. I just ended up in the street, just abandoned in the street, just left. So somehow I ended up at this school, and it kind of reminded me of my high school. And I was just in there trying to find my way around. It was so. We have to watch flattery in this time. We have to watch vanity and flattery and things that make us feel important, because that works on people. And people who are trying to charm you, such as Donald Trump is, will tell you things like that. Now, that's if you're a Trump fan, Trump supporter. Now, if you don't happen to be a Trump fan, Trump supporter, you're being manipulated in a totally different way. You are being agitated to stir up dissent. Okay, those people who are going along with what Trump does because they think that they identify with him and that he's working for them and he values them and all this stuff. That's not true. But he's pitting all those other people who Trump is, calling useless and wanting to keep them out of the country and whatever stuff he's doing, whoever he's degrading, to get those people all riled up so they'll want to fight. So he's also being used to pit people against each other, and then it's all going to build up into this craziness, and then martial law is still coming. Martial law is still prophesied. It is coming. And also, I believe that what they're also trying to do is, because I had a couple other dreams where there was school, and I believe they're going to be sending people back through like re-education to indoctrinate them and to maybe get them in debt or retool the American labor force, something like that. Prepare you for, professions that will be useful for them. All right, so I want to read a couple of scriptures. And by the way, it's 44 minutes and 44 seconds on there. So I want to read some scriptures. I'm going to start with Daniel This is warning us about flattery. So we know the Antichrist is a deceiver. He's a deceiver. And that's what that 444 stood for. It's the plan to deceive. So this is the first place in Daniel chapter 11 where it talks about this 8th king, the Antichrist of Barak Obama. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. So I've talked about this before, where people say, well, how can Barack Obama be the Antichrist? He's so very unpopular. Okay, he's unpopular in America, but third world people like him. He's courting the Muslim Brotherhood. He's flattering them, quoting from the Quran. I talked to a Muslim girl myself, a Muslim woman. They love him. They think he's on their side. They know he hates the American way. They see it. See, we look at the way he bungled the American economy and the American way of life. We look at that as ineptitude, but now we're starting to see it for what it was, a purposeful way to destroy this country. Because they want to, and he advocates this. He said it, watch his speeches. Well, we can't continue to live the way we're living. We need to balance things out for the developing nations and blah, 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 blah. Does he believe that? No. He just wants to weaken the U.S. So at first he doesn't seem to be honored, but it doesn't matter. He's going to obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And he'll come in peaceably. He's talking so smooth, y'all. He won a Nobel Peace Prize. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. For he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He went from this little guy that couldn't get any of his legislation passed through Congress. The Republican Congress was blocking him at every turn. It didn't even look like he was going to be able to pull off Obamacare. The Clintons had talked about health care, quote-unquote, reform. But Barack Obama, he kept doing it. And then by the end of his presidency, I mean, he's writing executive orders like, a study hall teacher giving out hall passes. So anyway, he shall enter peaceably, this is verse 24, even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and the spoil, and riches. Yea, he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. So, how he's saying, oh, Michelle Bachmann is saying, I'm going to bring about the biblical end of days. Ha 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 ha. He also says stuff like, predator drones. I'm going to win the war on Christmas. Looks at all the stuff that he does and couches it all in humor. All he's doing is telling you beforehand what he's going to do. I'm going to drop down to verses 34 and 35. 34. When they shall fall, this is talking about the Christians, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. We're going to also be susceptible to being thrown off like I was by flattery in that dream. And I got in the car with Donald Trump and I fell for what he was talking about until he, left me behind. Verse 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall by flatteries, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So in that, I learned something. Watch flattery. I don't even pay attention to people in the comments with flattery. I don't. We're not to flatter each other. We're to give the glory and honor to God. Who am I? I'm not anybody. Like I've said before, I may lay down and have a dream, or God may tell me something. I don't know who Barak Obama is of my own. This is it's God. I can do nothing by myself, nothing at all. I thank God that He chose me because I delight to be used by Him, and also I don't have to worry about whether I would believe this if it were coming from someone else. I know it's true. So when there's going to be some people, you might fall for some flattery, There might be some people who are falling for what Trump is doing. Operation 444. Taking their eyes off of Barack Obama so he continue to put his little plan into place to rule the world and to be entered into by Satan and be worshipped as God. There's one, I want to go to Isaiah chapter 3, the speaking about the United States. I want to talk about, the arrogance of America, the useless vanity that we live for. Our whole society, the morality of our society is going to hell in a handbasket, and we're out watching The Conjuring. And people made a franchise out of watching people be murdered on screen. How many Jason movies were there? And you think the Lord is not going to judge for these things? Isaiah chapter 3 says, for behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water. This is what happens when a nation is judged. There's famine. There's no bread, no water. He's going to take it away. How many people are prophesying famine? I said, if you knew what they were doing. It was also spoken to me, Agenda 21, and that is about making sure people don't have land so that they can be susceptible to being starved out. Verse 2, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, he's taking away bread, water. See, these are the things that matter. Not a useless, fluffy little $2,500 dog that does nothing but bite your friends and growl at the children and shake and be incapable of being house trained and poop on your carpet because they were bred for looks and they're stupid and useless. So God's going to take away that. Believe it. He's going to take away food and water. He's going to take away, it says, the Lord of hosts doth take away from Jerusalem and Judah. And he also takes the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. Do we respect our elders? Do we listen to them that have experience? No. We worship a culture of youth. Do we listen to any wisdom? No. We listen to sound bites. We listen to late night comedic television hosts mocking and ridiculing things. And then that's what we decide is politically correct and right to do. The prophet is gone. They prophesy lies. The judge is gone. They're all paid off, bought and paid for. There's no justice. The man of war, the mighty man. All the guys, they want to be little metrosexuals with tight pants on. And they want to make sure every week they get their hair lined up just so. And they spend more time arching their eyebrows than you do. And overly grooming their facial hair, if they have any. There's no mighty men. There's no brave, rough, manly men around. The man of war. These guys they're ready to turn in their guns. The captain of 50, there's no brave. It says the honorable man, the counselor, the cunning artificer, and the eloquent orator. He took away all those things. There's no craftsman. They'll build a McDonald's in 2 weeks. No craftsmanship gone into it. I've seen hospital wings, different buildings go up. And before the construction workers are out of the building, things are already coming apart. Verse 4 says, and I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. This is a curse. A culture of youth is a curse. And people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. And the child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Anybody seen any children, disrespectful children lately? Just about all of them. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, thou hast clothing, be our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. Now that refers to how we put an overemphasis on fashion. Okay, you're well dressed. You must be someone we should follow. You ever watched like Bill Clinton or some president or some reporter or somebody preparing for their segment, like on the part when they weren't on the air yet? And you'll see, the people that are constantly coming in and patting on their face and making sure every little hair, every little detail is in place. You know why that is? Because we'll take a person that's well dressed. Thou hast clothing, be our ruler. That's what we do. The Kardashians are famous because of how they look, and that's it. That's it. Because they're dressed like attention getting harlots. Verse 7 says, "In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be a healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because somebody means the person that's in charge is going to be like, I can't fix this. Look at this mess." That's how bad it's going to get. "For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom and hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves." Isn't it so ironic? They have declared their sin like Sodom. What was Sodom's sin? Sodomy, homosexuality. And what are we doing? Gay pride. I saw Katie Couric. She has a special coming out on the end of gender, questioning gender, finding out that, we're more complicated and male and female just doesn't fit us anymore. And you think the Lord is just going to let all this go? When he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities that were round about it for that? Is God unfair? He can't undestroy Sodom and Gomorrah, which means that if our doings exceed their doings, he will destroy us, and they already have. Verse 10 says, "Say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat of the fruit of their doings. Woe unto the wicked! It shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given unto him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them." Where do these women and children belong? In their home. Yes, I said it. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to error, and destroy the way of the paths. Paths. The Bible says that women are to be chaste keepers at home. Someone needs to be at home. Children need a home. A home is not a place that you spend $300,000 or $400,000 and more on, and then never have time to be there. And your husband doesn't even want to come home, if you have a husband anymore. Your home is not just that check you write to the mortgage place. It's supposed to be the heart of every person. But it can't be that as long as you have these great aspirations that you can have it all. You can have a career and you can do all these things and make a lot of money and have more and be impressive and all that stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You're not to be out ruling over people, ladies. Go home. Guide your house. Not rule over it. Your husband is the ruler. You guide the children. Go home. Do home things. Make some cookies. Make your husband want to come home. Let the house smell good like something when he gets there. Stop wanting to buy handbags and shoes. I know ladies like this. They abandon their homes so they can shop. I seen them. He says, my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to error. Somebody has convinced you that this is the way to live, and you'll defend it, and you'll march in the streets, and you'll be mad at me. Because you think it's the way of life to go get you a career. And then you're so high-minded, unsubmissive, unruly, forward, and boisterous until a man couldn't live with you even if he wanted to. Because there's an order. The Bible says they destroy the way of the paths. There are paths that we're to follow. Women are to be chaste keepers at home, guide the house, have children, raise them, educate them, teach them the ways of the Lord. They didn't have a public school system in Israel. People taught their children. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. Let me ask you a question. Would it cost you $18,000 over the course of the 9 months of the school year to teach your children? So if you had 3 children, that's almost $60,000. Does it take all that, really? You could go to some teacher supply store, buy some fat pencils and some crayons and do that for free. Look at the Duggars. Brainwashed. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of the people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. You know why the world hates America? And be not deceived, the world hates America. The world hates America. Because they work all day for what we throw away. And nobody's going to feel sorry for us when we take our turn at suffering. They're not. We had no compassion for their suffering. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, and the spoil of the poor is in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces, and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord God of hosts? Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes. The Kardashians, and I'm not just picking on them, many of you, I've seen you on Facebook, and then you'll post scriptures. You say you're a Christian, and your Facebook page looks like Selfie City. And you looking all, and you got, like you said, wanton eyes. You looking on there? Let me quit. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their calls, and their round tires like the moon, the chains and the bracelets and the mufflers and the bonnets and the ornaments of the leg, and the headbands, and the tablets and the earrings and the rings and the nose jewels, and the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the crisping pins, the glasses and the fine linen, and the hoods and the veils, And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. And instead of a girdle, a rent. Why would there be stink instead of a sweet smell? How are you going to buy all your Bath and Body Works when the economy crashes? When the dollar is worthless? When there's no water from your tap in your 25-story condo building? It's coming. That's why you're going to stink. Instead of a girdle, a rent. Instead of well-set hair, baldness. And instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. You're saying America is going to be great again under Trump? No, it's not. America is judged, I don't care if you believe it or not. This speaks to your vanity, America. Verse 2 says, My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with respect of persons. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring in goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say to him, Sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, Stand thou there, or sit here under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, hath not God chosen the poor of this world, not the poor of America? Because the poor of America, for the most part, you're not really poor. You're not really poor. You're being provided for. You're being the most pampered poverty there is. My brother Jonathan said that the homeless have laptops. Cell phone, laptops, apartments, EBT cards, haven't worked a day. And this is the reward of your fornications. You're not poor. You're poor in morals, but you're not poor. You're poor in diligence, but you're not poor in morals. Hearken, my beloved brethren, hath not God chosen the poor of this world rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom which he hath promised to them that love him? So there's more going on besides America, if you can believe it or not. The poor here are like the rich of the rest of the world. A lot of the rest of the world. But ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Do they not blaspheme that worthy name by the which ye are called? Verse 9, But if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors. Speaking about the vanity of America, all we care about is looking good. Billy Crystal used to have a character. He said, it's not how you feel, it's how you look. Proverbs 31:30 says, Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. That's relevant on many levels. But you can even take it back to the Trump dream. People are enamored with him because they think he's wealthy. They're not looking at his character. The people are even calling him a Christian. I invite you to read your Bible and see if he fits any definition. Well, I'll wrap this up with Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. We're to do that in good times and bad times, and yes, in tribulation. And be faithful doing that, even if it costs you your life and you die. God bless.